In the book of Esther, chapter 3, Satan used government authority to try and force God's people to break God's law. Mordecai chose to die on the gallows rather than break commandment number 2. In Daniel chapter 3, Satan again used government authority to try and force God's people to break God's law. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego chose death in a fiery furnace than to break commandment number 2. Again, in Daniel chapter 6, he used government authority to try and force God's people to break God's law. Daniel chose death in a den of lions rather than break commandment number 1. In all 3 cases, God protected his faithful and delivered them from certain death. Mordecai was honored and became next unto the king, and his enemy was hanged on the gallows in his place. While in the fiery furnace heated 7 times hotter to kill them, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were joined by the Son of God, and the fire caused them no harm. However, the men that threw them into the fire were killed by the flames. The hungry lions in the den were prevented from harming Daniel as well. On the other hand, the men that tried to force Daniel to sin were thrown into the den with their families to be consumed by the lions. In New Testament times, Roman law demanded worship of Roman rulers. Acts chapter 12, verses 21 to 22 says, "And upon a set day, Herod, arrayed in royal apparel, sat upon his throne, and made an oration unto them. And the people gave a shout, saying, It is the voice of a God, and not of a man." History records countless scores of Christians died in the Colosseums, refusing to break commandment number 1. Then later, pagan Rome became papal Rome. It has been recorded by history that superior papal authority and dominion is derived from the law of the Caesars. Vatican law demanded the worship of the popes as well as the Eucharist. To believe that our Lord God the Pope has not the power to decree as he has decreed is to be deemed heretical. If anyone says that in the holy sacrament of the Eucharist, Christ, the only begotten Son of God, is not to be adored with the worship of latria, also outwardly manifested, and is consequently neither to be venerated with custom of the Holy Church, or is not to be set publicly before the people to be adored, and the adorers thereof are idolaters, let him be anathema. For refusing to break commandment number 1, history records over 500 million Christians were killed by the Vatican between the years 538 AD to 1798 AD. It has been recorded that the Church of Rome has shed more innocent blood than any other institution that has ever existed among mankind will be questioned by no Protestant who has a competent knowledge of history. It is impossible to form a complete conception of the multitude of her victims, and it is quite certain that no powers of imagination can adequately realize their sufferings. Out of inherited fear of the bloody past, most denominations today teach the law is no longer needed. Why does the devil persist in trying to get people to break God's law? It's because he knows Christians that keep the law will not receive the mark of the beast. In Revelation 14, starting at verse 9, it speaks of people that do get the mark. It says, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest, day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name." Who are they that don't receive the mark? The very next verse says, "Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus." Ecclesiastes 12:13 confirms when it says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." In Revelation 13, verses 16 and 17, we find, "He causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." Why is this mark so important, and what are the actual features of a mark? Government declarations must always bear a mark, or an official seal of approval on it for validity. But what are the actual features of an official mark, or an official seal made by governing bodies? Well, an official seal, or signature, must always have 3 distinct features to be considered valid. Number 1, they must have the name of the official. Number 2, the title of the official. And number 3, the territory of the official. In other words, when the President of the United States signs a bill into law, he must sign it number 1, name, George Washington. Number 2, title, President. Number 3, territory of the United States of America. Collectively, his signature would read, George Washington, President of the United States. Absolutely every document must be signed or sealed in this manner for it to become an official legal document. Without it, it's a useless piece of paper. The Lord, thy God, has a kingdom, as well as a legal document containing his law for that kingdom. The Lord's legal document is, of course, his law, the 10 Commandments. Looking directly into the midst of these 10 Commandments, you will find the seal of the living God. Within the 4th commandment we find the words, For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth. In that passage, we see all the necessary features of an official seal. Without these 3 features, the law would be nothing more than words etched on stone. Again, an official seal or signature must always have 3 distinct features to be considered valid. Number 1, his name, the Lord. For it says in Isaiah 42 verse 8, I am the Lord, that is my name. His title, Creator, because it said in that verse, the Lord made heaven and earth. And number 3, his territory, heaven and earth, because that is what he made. Collectively, his signature reads, the Lord, Creator of heaven and earth. The seal of the Creator God is found in the Sabbath commandment of that same Creator God. It is an acknowledgement of his authority as the Creator as well as the author of that law written in stone. When we keep his Sabbath commandment, we are expressing that we recognize, remember, and worship him as our Creator. Psalm 77:11 says, I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of old. So, how is the mark of the beast or the seal of God administered? As was discovered in the previous video, the Vatican has control over all the necessary governments with global powers to allow them the ability to do as they wish. The national ID cards that are slated to start arriving in the United States of America as early as May of 2008 will be a mainstay in the system of control. The ID cards will contain everything about you as an individual.